Welcome to the top 20 worst games ever. I went to the depths of gaming hell and picked out the worst atrocities that this industry has ever seen. 20 games, 20 reasons to throw yourself out of an open window. A few of these games I've reviewed already, but a few of them I haven't. So sit back and enjoy this video while I count off the worst of the absolute worst. Number 20. I had to put this game on the list. I had to, because if you take away the decent music, graphics, and gameplay of this game, you're left with the worst plot in the history of video games. If you took the plot of Secret Files 3 and added it to the story of Star Ocean 4, then multiplied it by the plot of Metroid Other M, the end result would still be fucking Shakespeare compared to this pile of shit. I don't want to explain it too much in fear that I may drop dead from a brain hemorrhage, but basically, the plot is that Aya Brea has amnesia and needs to fight these monsters called the Twisted to save New York. What an appropriate name for the monsters, the Twisted. This plot has so many damn twists that I thought M. Night Shyamalan had taken a job at Square Enix. And the ending to this game? Ugh. If you want to know more about this game, check out my 2-part Games I Fucking Hate series about it. Now let's keep moving. There's still 19 more shit stains we have to talk about. Number 19. Everyone knows the story. A great movie is turned into a horrible game. A game so horrible that it almost killed the video game industry. Like I said, everyone knows this story, but do they really know about the game? Well, let me tell you, it sucks. The entire game you play as E.T. as he tries to collect pieces of his telephone while running away from scientists. To get pieces of the telephone, you have to fall into pits. The only problem is that in most of the pits, there were never any pieces of the damn telephone, and the only way to get out of the stupid pit was to wait for E.T. to float up to the surface using his neck. And get this, if E.T.'s neck didn't stop stretching when you got to the top of the pit, you'd fall back down and you'd have to repeat that all over again. Atari, the company responsible for this piece of shit, made 5 million copies, which was more than the number of sold consoles for the game to be played with. And when shit really hit the fan and no one bought the damn game, the game stores started returning them, meaning that Atari got left with millions of copies of this horrible ass game, which they later dumped into a New Mexico landfill using 14 different dump trucks. Now, as good as that story is, E.T., the actual game, isn't as bad as people say it is. And to prove it, here's the next game on this list. Number 18. This is another so-called racing game by Stellarstone, the company responsible for the abomination that is Big Rigs, over-the-road racing. In true Big Rigs fashion, this isn't even a damn racing game. All you do in the game is pick up pedestrians and drive them to whatever location they tell you to. The reason this game fails on nearly every level is due to the fact that the maneuvering on this game is shot to shit. You can't make any of the turns you need to make, so sometimes you crash into a building, and most of the time when you crash into a building, it also crashes the entire damn game. You want to know what the noise you keep hearing is? It's the sound of you hitting lampposts, even though you're nowhere near them. This game was released 2 years before Big Rigs, making it Stellarstone's first published title, which must have been some sick sense of foreshadowing because the games they made later were even worse. Number 17. I can't even begin to explain this game. I seriously can't, because nothing makes sense. The map doesn't make sense, the plot doesn't make sense, how things are oriented in houses doesn't make sense, and if you really want some mind-boggling shit, how about this? In the Friday the 13th movies, or at least the early ones, Jason is afraid of water, right? Well, in this game, Jason's apparently an Olympic swimmer. A little trivia note here for you guys, but I was gonna review this game for my Halloween special, and I even recorded a lot of gameplay footage for it. I ended up reviewing Countdown Vampires though, so the footage hasn't been used until now, so I can demonstrate what a horrendous hunk of garbage this is. Your weapon doesn't work because it goes over the enemy. The room layout doesn't work because it's confusing. The map doesn't work because you never know where the hell you're going. This is especially bad in the forest area because the map doesn't work there at all. Look how long it took me to get out of there! Number 16. If I asked you about the Sega Genesis, there's probably two things that would come to mind immediately for most people. Number one would be the console wars, and number two would be the 90s. Both of which are appropriate because the Genesis fought the Super Nintendo in the console wars, and the Sega Genesis had a long lifespan which ended in 1997. Crazy Bus is a Sega Genesis game that was made in 2004. That's right, a game published 7 entire years after the console was discontinued. What makes Crazy Bus such a terrible game is that there's literally only 3 things you can do. You can drive forward, you can drive backwards, and you can honk your horn. And if that wasn't enough, listen to this amazing intro music. Number 15.
How do you know about that? I've never told anyone before. I can hardly remember myself.
We've been watching over and protecting your entire life. It actually wasn't necessary, because you always looked after yourself well enough. You are the chosen one.
Stop making fun of me.
Unfortunately, this is no game. Do you know the revelations of the Prophet John?
In the name of the fallen and his prophet Aaron Crowley.
Psychotoxic is a first-person shooter on acid. Apparently this game was developed by 6 people in a basement, and it really shows in every single aspect of this game. The graphics and voice acting are a disgrace. The shooting is absolutely broken, and the plot of this game is an absolute mess. This game also corrupts your save files, so beating it can be nearly impossible. That's assuming you can even make it past the first level with all these broken mechanics. You shoot people, and the bullets can either phase through them entirely or seemingly do no damage. And when the enemies in this game die, they turn into Michael Jackson. Number 14.
Then there's no time to waste.
Rings, rings, and more rings. Superman 64 is a game where you fly through a bunch of rings, then you pick up a car, then you fly through some more rings, then you pick up another car, then you fly through some more rings. Superman flies like he's fucking drunk around a city that has no human inhabitants and looks like a beta version of what a city should actually resemble. The glitch count is at an all-time high. You can get stuck on walls, you can glitch through doors and end up in elevators, you can fall right through a solid surface, you can even break the damn game and enter a blue abyss that leads absolutely nowhere. Superman has disfigured arms in this game, which he uses to jack off a 10-foot dick with, but don't worry, you probably won't even get to the part where you use your attacks because the controls in this game are so unbelievably bad that flying through rings in the first stage while having the constraint of a time limit is nearly impossible because fidgeting with the analog stick only makes Superman slow down or fly in a completely opposite direction from which you intended. Even the people in the damn demo just give up halfway and ram themselves into a building. Number 13. Final Bout is easily the second worst fighting game I have ever played in my entire life. The fighting consists of your opponent kicking your ass for 5 minutes because of a stupid glitch that lets them do infinite combos. And if this doesn't happen, you still don't have any chance of winning because the controls are literally retarded. You press a button and there's a 2-second delay until your character actually does something. This game also features a brilliant mechanic where your opponent can accumulate energy and kill you with one punch. The dubbing in this game is also just terrible. The Bondi actors suck.
You look strong. This should be a good...
All right, let's do it!
I won't let you interfere.
I have to gather my strength here.
You are the first to show me this much.
This is going to be a problem. You're gonna give it all you got from the start, huh? I'm not so easy. This is going to be a problem.
You look strong. This should be a good fight.
Now, should I clean the trash of the universe?
I won't let you interfere. You look strong. This should be a good fight. Even if there is no hope, why don't you worry about yourself?
Playtime is over. I will send you to heaven immediately.
To show you a terror beyond hell. That was our agreement, wasn't it? You jerk.
I'm gonna surpass my father.
You surpass me.
I'm a Saiyan raised on Earth. I will defeat you.
How trivial.
I can destroy you in an instant. I know it.
It seems you didn't know that I have the greatest power in the universe.
Number 12.
Rock and roll, motherfuckers, rock and roll.
Rogue Warrior was a game published by Bethesda in 2009. Yeah, Bethesda. That Bethesda. This game was originally supposed to be released in 2007 as a tactical first-person shooter, during Bethesda's partnership with Zombie Studios, but instead they scrapped that and we got left with this.
Suck my balls, my hairy fucking big balls. Wrap them around your fucking mouth. Fucking wind is so cold, it'd freeze the balls off a fucking polar bear. Goddamn cock breath coming, motherfuckers! Fondle my hairy nuts. Fuck bag. Motherfuckers! Fuck! Fucking retard shit. Fucking motherfuckers. Shitholes. Motherfuckers. Cocksucker. Fucking shit.
This game puts you in the shoes of Richard Marcinko, a veteran US Navy SEAL. Now, Richard Marcinko is a real person, and Rogue Warrior is his autobiography that later went on to spawn a series of fictional books with him as the protagonist. I seriously wonder what he would think about this horrible fucking game. A game with broken controls, stupid enemy AI, glitches out the ass, and Mickey Rourke saying "fuck" every 5 seconds. There's no way they were serious when they made this. They had to have known that this was garbage. Just listen to the ending credits theme.
Fucking ninja style. I'm gonna bring it to him. I'm gonna show him what time it is. Good spot to bring the noise. Ah! Fucking commies keep getting in my way. Surprise, motherfuckers. Happy fucking birthday. Glad to see me, fuckers. Send me the bill, motherfucking cocksuckers.
I'd also like to point out that I beat this game in 2 hours and 15 minutes. The single player campaign isn't even 3 hours long, and the full retail price was $60, which means you're essentially paying over $20 an hour to get fucked by Dick Marcinko's dick and his shitty game. You know what? Screw this. Take it away, Mickey Rourke.
Assholes, goat fuck, fuck no, shitholes. Chew on this, fuckhead. Rock and roll, motherfuckers, rock and roll. Drop dead, motherfucker, you fucking amateurs. Chew on this, fuckhead. Bring the noise, bitch. Oh, fuck. Goddamn motherfucking bitch. Man, I might as well have a bullseye on my ass. Goddamn cock breath coming, motherfuckers. I got bullets for every one of those motherfuckers. Fucking pissed goddamn shit. The great leader must have a tiny dick.
Number 11. You know how I said that Dragon Ball GT Final Bout was the second worst fighting game I've ever played? Well, Shaq Fu is the worst fighting game I've ever played. Holy shit! The story behind this game is absolutely nonsensical. Shaq walks into a Chinese shop and he's informed by the owner that he has to save this kid named Nezu. So Shaq enters the second world and begins fighting cat women and mummies. In a normal fighting game, you'd be fighting your opponent, but in Shaq Fu, you're fighting yourself as you try to actually execute a fucking move with this broken control scheme. This game has some of the worst controls I have ever had the displeasure of playing with. You press left on the D-pad and Shaq doesn't move. You press right on the D-pad and Shaq doesn't move. You try to do a combo and Shaq fucking jumps. Most of the fights in this game aren't even fights. They're Olympic high jump contests where you and your opponent sees who can jump the highest and the most times. I legitimately believe that the people who created this game were under the influence of drugs, because there's no way a sober person looked at this and thought it was anything worth ever releasing. Number 10.
Those who know my name whisper it in fear. Most people I meet, I only meet once. I am Drake, the assassin. To me, life is all about death.
Meet Drake of the 99 Dragons clan. Drake is absolutely, positively the world's dumbest assassin ever. You know, maybe I can forgive playing around with guns like a little kid, and I can even forgive throwing your guns with your fingerprints all over them on the floor and just leaving them there. But what I cannot forgive is when Drake throws himself out of a fucking window and kills himself.
I become invincible. Nothing can stop me now.
Even the people in the game call him stupid.
Obviously, the Undying Dragon does not protect him from his stupidity.
And this is only a fraction of what makes this game incredibly abysmal. This game takes the cake for the worst controls I have ever seen on an Xbox game. Drake moves so fucking fast that everything is a hassle. It's hard getting on the stairs, it's hard getting off the stairs, and this camera must be trying to leave the goddamn game because it's all over the place. This game also features the most broken wall running mechanic I have ever seen. The jumping sucks because your shoes seem to slip while you're running. There's a mission in this game where it tells you to jump off a building, and when you do, it kills you. Now, if you think that sort of glitching is bad, our next game puts this to shame. Number 9.
Now it is my time to return the favor. I care not what happens to me, but please heed my voice. Sonic, come back. To me. To us.
Sonic the Hedgehog is a mistake. Just like the roadkill that was Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis for the Game Boy Advance, this game was also rushed for Christmas, and it shows because Sonic 06 is fundamentally broken. The controls in this game are a disgrace. You lightly move your analog stick and Sonic runs halfway across the planet. That's not even counting all the glitches and clipping where you can just run into things like there's nothing there. And sometimes your partner Tails appears next to you and inexplicably drops dead. The camera in this game is even worse than Drake's. If the camera in Drake was trying to leave the game, this camera must be trying to leave the entire dimension. The graphics look like someone scraped them off the bottom of a fucking shoe. And the loading screens, dear God. What did they do to Sonic? Number 8. Carmageddon 64 is a goddamn mess. The first thing you see when you try and play this game is a gigantic wall of text that strains your eyes. And once you get into the actual game, your eyes will finally start oozing blood at the sight of these horrendous graphics. I know that the Nintendo 64 had an insane texture cache limitation, but they couldn't even try to make it look better than this? The graphics wouldn't even be a big problem if the game actually worked like it's supposed to, but it doesn't. These controls have to be the worst I have ever seen in a driving game. Cars move like they have helium in their tires, and you can even drive up walls like there's nothing wrong. There's also glitches where you can drive underwater and it doesn't respawn you, so you're stuck driving in the ocean and there's no way of getting out. Don't even get me started on the ridiculous censorship this game has with the zombies. It's never explained in the damn game, and it doesn't make any sense at all. And in some versions of this game, they replace the humans with dinosaurs. What the fuck? Number 7. If there was ever a game that needed to be worked on more before release, it's Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. This game was released by Stellarstone in pre-alpha mode. They knowingly released this game in an unfinished state. This game has no sound or sound effects, but some idiot is still credited for sound. The only sound this game makes is the sound a turd makes when it drops into a fucking toilet. At the beginning of the game, you have to choose between 4 completely generic trucks, which are no different from each other at all, except for the way they look. Then, you have 5 stages to choose from. I mean 4, because Night Ride doesn't fucking work. If you choose Forgotten Road 1, then that's when the shit really starts to stink. First, you're gonna notice that the opponent AI doesn't move an inch ever. Stellarstone released a patch where the AI can move, although he never finishes the race. But in the first version of this game, he just sits there and never moves, which means that this isn't a racing game. It isn't even a game. You can drive through bridges and entire buildings as if they were just mirages. And let me remind you, you can drive on fucking mountains. And you don't lose speed at all, ever. You can drive right off the goddamn map. You can go faster going backwards than you can going forwards. And the speedometer in this game is almost as big as the truck you're driving. And finally, if you ever manage to finish a race, you're given this inspiring text. Your winner. Number 6.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me...
Everything about Aliens Colonial Marines is a joke. At every corner, we were fed bullshit lies by Gearbox about the development of this game, and when it finally burst out of their goddamn chest, it had so many damn problems that they're nearly innumerable. I think I'm gonna have to count all of them.
Here we go.
This flamethrower doesn't fucking work. The aliens must have glitches for blood. People can jump right through windows. O'Neill is an idiot. Some aliens are too lazy to do anything to you. This guy has a weird twitch in his arm. This xenomorph is in the Matrix. And finally, this game looks like shit. Number 5.
Yeah.
Dark Castle is not a video game. Dark Castle is an experiment staged by a research facility to see how much torture a person can take before they snap and turn into a homicidal maniac. In this game, you play as the most pathetic excuse for a protagonist ever. This guy can't even go down one step without falling or getting dizzy. He can't even jump from too far a height or he'll stop in midair and commit suicide. This guy moves so awkwardly, you'd think he has a broom stuck up his ass and he's trying to shake it out by running. I can't tell you how many times I died trying to get this guy to control correctly. The controls are easily the worst part about this game. The guy moves so slow that to move faster, it's easier to jump around the level. And that's not even guaranteed to help you because like I mentioned before, jumping from too far a height will send you into a sky dance and then the guy just drops dead. Your only means of defense at the beginning are rocks, which don't kill any of the enemies, but instead turn them into some piles of shit. This wouldn't even be a problem if the aiming system here wasn't so fucked to hell. You have to swing your arm around various degrees just to hit something as if your arm was a robotically attached cannon. It moves so goddamn slow, you nearly never hit what you need to hit, and if you do, something is already behind you trying to kill you. Now all of this lends to why this game is such a gigantic insult. You see all these rooms? You're supposed to go in them to get special items to help you defeat the Black Knight that's in the middle room. But the thing is, you don't need any of these fucking items to defeat the Black Knight. That's why there are speedruns for this game on YouTube in under 2 minutes. 2 minutes! All that masochism in the other rooms is completely unnecessary because all you need to do to beat the goddamn game is pull down a couple levers. Number 4.
I can
skinny little old baby cow, ain't he? You ever slice an ear off of a baby cow? They scream and scream. It's funny.
Ride to Hell Retribution is an insult in every sense of the word. It's an insult to gamers, it's an insult to game developers, it's an insult to women, and it's an insult to bikers who are portrayed in this game as nothing but rapists and idiots who kill people just because they don't like them. The main protagonist of this game, Jake Conaway, is a fucking moron. He's a Vietnam War veteran whose brother is killed shortly after he returns to his hometown of the Devil's Hand. Now think about what I just said. Jake is a Vietnam War veteran. You'd think that means he has a lick of goddamn sense in his brain, but he doesn't. Jake spends the entire game screwing women and killing random people, sometimes that have absolutely no affiliation to the biker gang he's after. Now that's only scratching the surface on why this game is as terrible as it really is. The driving sections in this game, and there's a lot of them, feel like your bike is riding on ice. Every time someone approaches you, it's the same shit where you hit them 3 times, shove them off the bike, it veers to the side, and explodes. Every fucking time. The voice acting in this game was recorded via tin can walkie-talkie.
Must you bleed? How pretty like.
Bleeding isn't the same as dying. And I'll teach you the difference if you don't tell me where to find the other guys who were there that night.
Fuck you.
Jake? What the hell happened?
I've only heard worse voice acting in The Town with No Name and fucking Animal Soccer World. I have never played a game where I felt so insulted due to the sheer ignorance that I was watching. This game has the most brutally honest cover of all time because it tells you that you're definitely going to hell, and it also points out the percentage of brain cells that was used to program, script, and test play this abominable piece of fucking trash. Number 3. Can you imagine having to sit through 9 more minutes of that? Neither can I. Let me just make this clear right now. Daikatana for the Nintendo 64 is the worst first-person shooter I have ever played in my entire life. Not Daikatana for the PC, not Psychotoxic, not Rogue Warrior, not Aliens Colonial Marines, not Elite Forces Navy SEALs, not Duke Nukem Forever, not Extreme Paintball, not Sniper Path of Vengeance, not Unreal 2, not Redneck Rampage, not South Park, and definitely not any of the Call of Duty titles. It was this. If you think any of those are worse, you have not played Daikatana on the Nintendo 64. This game has the absolute worst controls, worst graphics, worst story, if you can even call what's in this game a story, the worst weapons, the worst boss battles, and the worst elevators of any FPS I've ever played. There is something very wrong with your game when simply figuring out what the fuck is going on is a challenge. When you play the game, you'll think someone has smeared Vaseline all over your computer monitor because they blurred the graphics to shit to hide that they were so low resolution. The 2 other supporting characters you play with in the PC version are left completely out of this game, but they kept them in the cutscenes and even on the goddamn cover of this game. People were given all this false hope that this was going to be worth a shit because John Romero made it, but instead we were treated to a mess of bugs and overthought concepts that amounted to jack shit. and that's just the PC version. 3 months later, Kemco turned up the diarrhea dial when they spread their butt cheeks and shat out this horrible port of an already shitty game. To anyone who doesn't think this is as bad as I'm making it sound, I dare you to play it. Number 2.
Make your selection now.
I am truly convinced that the creators of Action 52 hated children and that they were intentionally trying to crash the video game industry with the release of the original game in 1991. You see, when Action 52 came out, they had the balls to price it at $200. Their reasoning for this being that it held 52 games, so you're really only spending $3 or $4 per game on the entire cartridge. However, they developed this game, so naturally they must have known that none of the games on here are actually any good, and that some of the games didn't even work on the NES. Every single game in the Action 52 cartridge fucking sucks! From the broken jump controls, to the terrible placement of enemies, to the nonsensical level design and game titles, to the broken, glitched programming, to the boring and frustrating gameplay, every game on here is a bomb that has numerous problems. I haven't even mentioned that all the games on here look like shit. These graphics barely look like a step up from the Atari 2600. The most insulting thing about the game is the story behind it. This fuckhead named Vince Perry tried selling 1,000 carts of this game in an agreement where he would get $1 million up front that would be wired to the Bahamas, and then the cartridges would be assembled offshore. If you bought this game and needed help with it, you would simply send your question and $5 via the postal service to the Bahamas and wait for them to reply. What the fuck? And our story doesn't end there. Oh no, it doesn't end there. Two years later, in 1993, another Action 52 came out for the Sega Genesis. And would you believe? This game is probably even worse. They brought over some of the games from the NES version and somehow managed to make them even worse. Ooze, Haunted Hill, and Star Evil are just horrendous. And this time around, Action 52 should have just been called Knockoff 52, seeing as there's rip-offs of Minesweeper, Pong, and even Microsoft Paint. The music and sound effects are just a complete disgrace, and they reuse them for every single goddamn game on the cartridge. Now, like I just mentioned, games like Ooze and Haunted Hill are brought over from the NES version, but there's one game in particular here that needs to be mentioned. Cheetah-Men. Cheetah-Men has got to be the worst 2D platformer I've ever played in my entire life. It features a completely absurd plot where the Cheetah-Men fight for the Action Game Master after a gigantic robotic arm grabs his balls and drags him into the television. Was the Action Game Master playing Action 52 when he got grabbed into the TV? If he was, good! He spent $200 on this piece of shit and deserves to pay. Once you get into the game, you run into all sorts of badly programmed gameplay mechanics, spiking difficulty levels, stupid enemies like Saddam Hussein, and glitches that would put Sonic 06 to shame. Now that's just Cheetah-Men on the NES. Cheetah-Men on the Genesis is even more of a disgrace. They don't even bother trying to make different levels for this game. It's all one level. You just play as a different Cheetah-Man every time. Now both of these games are absolutely horrendous, but there exists one game which makes the both of them look like games of the year by comparison. The game I'm talking about is... Yes, they made a sequel to fucking Cheetah-Men. This game was never released. It escaped in 1996 when people found 1,500 copies of it in a warehouse. Cheetahman 2 is an unfinished game. It is easily the glitchiest piece of shit ever produced by human hands. Just look at all this shit. You can almost never make it past the 3rd stage boss. He'll just disappear and you have to reset the game. For all these reasons, Action 52 and its 2 different incarnations get number 2 on this list. And now, number 1. The worst game of all time is Bubsy 3D is without question the worst video game of all time. That's right, Bubsy 3D, your winner. The first time I ever played this game, I wanted to reach into my computer monitor and choke the life out of this stupid furry cocksucker for all the pain and mental anguish he cost me by playing his shitty games. First, there were the 2 SNES games, which weren't great games, but they could at least be considered tolerable. Then there was the god-awful Bubsy game on the Atari Jaguar. And finally, the worst game ever created, Bubsy 3D. Everything in this game fucking sucks. The controls are so unresponsive and clunky that you might as well cut off your goddamn hands and control Bubsy with your bleeding stumps. The way Bubsy moves around in this game defies all sense of logic. You move him forward and he starts running, and when you try and stop him, he just crashes into a wall. You try and move him to the left and he barely changes his direction, which makes collecting items nearly impossible. And this only gets worse during the platforming sections of the game, when the camera just pans over Bubsy when he jumps, which is an epic failure because it means you can't see things from the correct angle and you can't control the camera, which is absolutely essential in a 3D platformer, as Super Mario 64 taught us. Jumping over these enemies is the biggest pain in the ass because some of them move much faster than Bubsy himself and the controls do you no favors. Trying to dodge enemy projectiles is also an epic failure because of how fucked in the ass these piece of shit controls are. Now, if you thought the controls were the only things wrong with Bubsy 3D, you must be blind and deaf. These graphics, oh my god, I can't find one texture in this game. One texture! The entire game looks like somebody dropped Bubsy in Paint Bucket Land and forgot to take him out. The water looks no different from the actual land in this game, and it's possible to confuse the two and just randomly die while you figure out what the hell just happened. And because these graphics are so repetitive and the level design is so confusing, you may never make it past a certain level because you have no goddamn clue where you're supposed to be going. You have to deal with all this while Bubsy talks his ugly fucking head off in what can only be described as the most annoying voice acting ever.
Oh, look! An arrow! Aren't these game designers wonderful? Giving you a guidepost to help you find your way? How convenient! See that thing in front of you? That's a switch. Just run into it to make something cool happen. 2 points! You're not so tough. Woo 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 woo! Sting like a bee.
Luckily, you can turn off the voice acting, but what you should really be doing is turning the entire game off. Bubsy 3D is not a game that needed to go back to the drawing board like Big Rigs or Alien Colonial Marines. Bubsy 3D is a game that needed to be taken into a dark alley and have its fucking brains blown out. The people who released this game were so desperate to make it seem like it was worth a single cent that they made up quotes for the cover. The Gold X Award? What the fuck is that? And you know what else? PSX Tree Magazine never existed. You know what else never existed? Quality in a Bubsy game. The entire goddamn franchise got progressively worse until this horse shit was released and finally killed it. For all these reasons, Bubsy 3D is given the prestigious #1 spot on my top 20 worst games ever list. Bubsy, rest in piss, motherfucker!
Monster kill.
Fucking gaming style. I'm gonna bring it to him. I'm gonna show him what time it is. It's fun to play the games. Ah! You morons will love this. Hope you assholes like fireworks. Ooh! Fucking bad games keep getting in my way. Well, surprise, motherfuckers. Happy fucking 3rd birthday. That's right, nighty night, you terrible piece of shit. Enjoy the ride, cocksucker. Have a nice trip. Boom time, baby. Bubsy 3D. Looks like a party. Got places to go and shitty developers to meet. Bad games are everywhere. Fuckers are out in force. Rest in piss bullshit. This fucker's gonna blow. Anytime, anywhere, any place. Kicking ass and playing shitty games. Who's the hardest motherfucker around, huh? Ah! Rock and roll, motherfuckers, rock and roll. Ooh! Ah! Subscribe, motherfuckers. Anybody home? Hey, DX fans here. Glad to see me, fuckers. Like and leave a comment, motherfucking cocksuckers. I'm over here, fuckface. Ah! There's gonna be fucking bad games being played all over the place. Sorry, assholes. Quiet day YouTube is about to get severely fucked up. Anytime, anywhere, any place. Kicking ass and playing shitty games. Who's the hardest motherfucker around, huh? Ah! Give me a goddamn controller. I have a good place to blow some shit up. Ah! Ooh! Ooh! Ah! Ah! Ooh! Ooh! Ah! What the fuck was I doing again? Oh yeah, playing shitty games. Goddamn cock breath motherfucking glitches! You fucking asshole! You fucking cheaterman! Drop dead motherfucker, you fucking amateurs! I own your fucking soul, you fucking terrible game! Yeah, a little good game for you, huh, pussy? You fucking shit-eating game! Time to move. I got bad games to set the game in heaven.